mindset control over attitude. With this discussion on this day, I want to focus on the mindset control over attitude, computerized calculation, in acknowledgement to the mental state that our 100 years have exposed or expressed itself in our day. And when we talk about our day, we talk about all that relates to your day. And when we look today at certain people's day, then the day looks very quiet. When you look at your day on this day, then your day feels very harsh on your human body. And when the calculation are computerized calculation, when the calculation are computerized green tick on a governmental computerized database, when the calculation are in the hospitalized computerized office, your house address with a green tick or a red tick, then the aggression in your household are then on this day related to the green tick or the red tick that are acknowledging your house's mental circumstances in this day. And when your circumstances are that you financially find yourself poor, then the calculation that are the green or red tick in a governmental database are the aggression that you find in your day that for us, while I've walked my 20-year journey with Brad Pitt, with the Mr. and Mrs. Smith film, with the calculation education that brought us to this day's discussion. That when the database acknowledges your household circumstance, then it acknowledges it not only in a governmental office computerized business, but it acknowledges it in the hospitalized computerized office. Even though someone in your household were hospitalized or not. Even though someone was admitted in your house into hospital or admitted, submitted in the calculation that has to submit and acknowledge to the governmental office acknowledgement in it. The governmental office response of why your house's mental state are being calculated on a hospital database when it should be calculated by the governmental health and safety, health and wellness department office. When the hospital have to make ready for you when you are not mentally ill. And South African people have messed with one another's houses to make one another mentally ill so that the hospitalized calculation plus the governmental calculation can then equalize why certain people are in a hospital database when they were not hospitalized. And when the calculations are so sensitive, and someone knocked in my door in 2020, and the person say, but I have to tell you I'm not mentally ill. And I said, why do you then feel that you have to come and tell me? And then she says, I just feel that I have to come and tell you. Because certain people in the community want to admit her to hospital and want to say that she's mentally ill, but her reactions are that she went through a lot and that she does not feel mentally ill. And after quite some time that she came to talk to me, and I halfway did not realize what South African people are doing in the hospital database, and that my mother were greatly employed in Paarl Hospital. And why she came to knock on my door. And I did not realize, but I went through the same communication that I was feeling so mentally ill before I arrived in New Zealand. And I did not think that people are messing in the hospital database that are the computerized communication control, that has control over our household reactions, that has control over our household circumstances, that has control over our mental state. And she came to explain to me that she really was employed somewhere, she was feeling threatened, and she then was feeling oppressed and went to talk to one of her friends. Not to be admitted into hospital for a mental illness on it, just for the fact that she felt endangered. And after she spoke to me, then she was hospitalized, and then she came out of the hospital. And I halfway did not realize the amount of people in community that messes with the hospital database. That causes people to go and be admitted into hospital, and that makes your whole household's communications out of control. And there are computerized communications that for Brad Pitt and the McLaren teams and the Formula One teams, it's not difficult to manage me, Queen Ribea Elise's household communications. It's not difficult for them to do the Monday morning of it, that are the Sunday morning cooking communication, in acknowledgement to all that the cooking communication acknowledged in your kitchen on a Monday morning, and in acknowledgement to your week's cooking. Then the communication that they work on and that they are employed on does not require you to make the household in aggression. It only requires them to do the Sunday calculation cooking that I educate on my website, on my YouTube videos. This is my Sunday kitchen. This is my household circumstances on a Sunday. And then it sounds so loud on a Sunday, and my voice is so loud in the kitchen. And on a Monday, kindly for the whole week, that the communication have to be right. Because it could have been right, the Bible say, on the Sunday already. The Bible says, and then Jesus had to go to a wedding party and had to drink wine and say, but kindly give me the water of it. Because kindly that household communication of me on a Monday morning were not called drunkenness. This ministering that I'm ministering are not called drunkenness. It's kindly the quiet Sunday communication where the computerized office have to be quiet in your household's computerized communications. There are television acknowledgement. There are governmental database acknowledgement. There are the poverty in the country's acknowledgement. And that because of the poverty circumstances, we can relate poverty to this, to this, to this, and to this. But it does not mean that people have to mess with a hospitalized database so that poverty in a country can be explained on a Chinese computerized acknowledgement. Because then, therefore, all households have a right to have their safe 100 years. All households have a right to then be acknowledged under the same computerized communication. There are saved 100-year journey for someone else that attends a church on a Sunday, Jesus would say, in biblical education. Because when we transfer biblical education into calculation, then it calculates directly to our 100-year journeys being human beings. And then all the scriptures, when it's scientifically calculated, like I say, my brother King Martin George Philander, science in all acknowledgement, in all that were wombed in our years, in all that the families have journeys. King Richard George Philander, scientific science in all acknowledgement. King Jacques Philander, logical scientific science. King Anton Philander, that are all the flights, all the different horses that look like King Anton, are scientific logical science in all that the journeyed independently, that are calculating, equalizing, and biblical calculation into our 100-year acknowledgement. And when it's calculated on a computerized office, and we have to calculate and acknowledge our safe 100-year journey, and anyone can fiddle on a hospital database, and then the sensitivity of the hospital database that anyone can fiddle and can edit on are the computerized software communication, the mental health communication under the governmental acknowledgement. So that no one just fiddles on buttons and calculations on a hospital database when the calculation can then safely hold the accurate information. And therefore, in all accuracy, the governmental mental wellness database, there where my sister Queen Antoinette, our council, mental wellness counselor, right? They were in hospital, education, employment all these years. And therefore the calculation and the accurate acknowledgement are then acknowledged in the governmental database acknowledgement. And therefore countries can't just explain the poverty circumstance in her household and want to relate it to a mental state so that the computerized database in China can scientifically equalize the communication. Because then so many people in South Africa felt oppressed. So many people in South Africa felt that they were innocent and they were treated so badly, and their households were treated so badly. And when a generation have learned so much about the computerized communication that our households are built on, and that can control us, the human beings, and when the films educates us so much about it, then in all accuracy, then in all acknowledgement, Then in all, like we said yesterday, in our HR 2025-2026 education, in all responsible attitude and responsible reactiveness. Because when you react responsibly in the communication line that someone else acknowledged in, and you work on me, Queen Ribea's house's communications, or me, Ribea Elise's house's communications, and you are employed in the mental health department in the governmental office and not in the hospitalized office, and you work on my communication and you are not aggressed when you press play on my mindset control over attitude video, then your reaction have an effect on my household state, on my household circumstance, on my scientific household's journey that are my bank account years after this day. And when you are employed in the communication and you press play on my videos and you are aggressed with the thoroughness of how I explain the information, then kindly don't press play and wait if you are employed in mental health or in mental wellness and you have to press play on the video on my website that educates in all accuracy, in all thorough calculation of how households' calculation of their 100 years are then sometimes affected by certain databases that governmental officers hold office on. And when you are me, Queen Ribea Elise, and you are sensitive about that kind 100 years that Grandma Martha have been blessed with, that King Papa Universe and Koum Chafta George, my Queen Miss Anna George Philander's oldest brother, now 90 years in it. My Queen Anna George Philander's sister, now 85 years in it. My Queen Anna George Philander's brother died when he was 70, 80 years in the communication line. My Queen Anna George Philander died and was deceased when she was 63, 70, 80 years in the communication line. And when it's your 100 years, and it was a generational blessing, a generational acknowledgement, a biblical acknowledgement that are your family's journey, your responsibility to be responsible. And the computerized communication of government make you loud and angry that you have to tweet the whole day about them. And then kindly in all acknowledgement, kindly in all scientific acknowledgement then. Because then we become responsive when we have to tweet about our household circumstances the whole day. When governmental communications controls your reaction and you have to respond to be so defensive in it. Because it acknowledges so much about you. And when you are me, that you are now not only Ribea in your journey, but you are so greatly a womb in the birth womb that you are queen. Acknowledgement, Queen Ribea Elise, in all Ribea processes that still have to be introduced and acknowledged in our 100 years. That me, Queen Ribea, now only 40 years in the matureness of the journey. And while I'm now in the matureness of the journey and it's producing fruits, then in all acknowledgement that no one wants to do right, but certain processes are in all acknowledgement. That where the people want to acknowledge the complete scientific acknowledgement in all that they hold office on, then kindly we must learn and educate ourselves in all that, to be responsive, to respond in your day and to not die young in your day, and to learn to be therefore responsible when you walk your day. When we have to respond and you have to wake up and you have to be awake. My business name, Awoke. The Bible writes awake. My brother King Jacques Philander, that has to awoke. The Bible say brother King Jacob, that has to awoke so that the family's inheritance can be again right on earth. And while King Jacob in South Africa has to awoke, and he has to awoken, the Bible say, in prison, because our family feel like we're in prison and we have done nothing wrong. And we are so greatly the queen authority amongst all authorities in the heavens as well as on the earth, the Bible would say. That our mama's name, Anna, was now not only a prophetic journey for us in our journeys in our 100 years on earth. Our Grandma Martha was now not only Grandma Martha that was the friend of Elizabeth or the friend of Mary, because Grandma Martha in acknowledgement are the Queen Grandma Martha, Mommy Universe, and a George Throne Womb Mama. And while my Queen Mom Universe and a George Philander's Mama, Queen Grandma Martha, have to be acknowledged within the Queen Mum universe womb. There are my Queen Mum universe and a George Philander that had a baby in the womb. And the Bible says not yet only a baby. Because the great womb again gives a rebirth within the season. And that's why it's called Queen Mum Universe and a George Philander womb. School of Color, Afrikaanse Duitse translation journeys. And only in all accuracy and acknowledgement, the mental wellness calculation and a hospital database are then so sensitive that employees employed in the computerized office then should then therefore we write on our voc education, should then therefore not edit and fiddle on those communication scientific acknowledgements that they learn about that we are wombed in a certain way when all the information are on a database that calculates the mental state in the country, that are the hospital database. And when the mental wellness calculation office, the governmental office, take responsibility of the database that holds the information, but that releases the information, then the information can be released in all accuracy so that households does not find themselves oppressed, aggressed, under so much poverty that where all people can be provided for in all countries. Where grocery stores don't have to throw food in the bin, but the food can be calculated into the households in the community centers where households can then collect their food parcels. And when it's all then calculated under our mental wellness calculation, the circumstances of your country, and people play around it like how South Africans play around the communication line, and then it's highly in acknowledgement because me, Queen Ribea Elise's mama, Queen Mum Universe in the womb, and Mum Universe, Queen Mum Universe, and George Philander were born in South Africa. So the South Africa communications are in high sensitivity. And when South Africans now learn to fiddle so around it, and in all scientific journey acknowledgement, we then stayed in South Africa in scientific acknowledgement of how we were born in our years so that we don't lose out on any information in our journeys. Because the Bible says would it then therefore also be fine for the family to stay in a palace so that the information are being kept in all sensitivity. But sensitivity are then acknowledged in a governmental database. So the governmental office must then therefore also be responsible in it. And when they are responsible in it, then therefore the scientific journey that the womb now in these 100 years here in South Africa, it's womb in all acknowledgement, in all color, school color introduction, in all international sports introduction, in all scientific calculation, and then there from onwards the Bible say. Then there from all teams, all departments, all countries, all legislative office, all human rights office can then learn, all human resource officers can then learn in accordance to how the womb was then wombed in our 100 years. Because the scientific part of our journey are also important. Scientifically, the journey brought us to the heavens of South Africa. We were born in South Africa then in the Queen Mum Universe womb. And while the journey brought our communications to the heavens of South Africa scientifically, in how the families have journeyed over the years, then the scientific part of our household circumstances are also going to have to be calculated. Then it's not about us going to build for us a palace and not having friends and only doing this and only doing that. And sometimes that is right in all accuracy because the information have to be held in all accuracy. Like Queen Mum Universe and George Philander House were very sensitive all these years about who our friends are. Because the informations are sensitive. But have we decided to not be so sensitive about who our friends are, then those scientific logical explanations are also important. Of how our friends reacted to us being their friends. Have they learned about our home being Queen Mum Universe home? How did they respond to all that they learned about? Where can they go with such in communications? How can they manipulate such communications? What are then therefore the reason why a palace calculation of utmost importance in all that the computerized office builds office on? And while the information that our countries are holding are scientifically sensitive, then being responsible in it are a mental wellness characteristic. A mental wellness characteristic are governmental officials that are employed in the communication to be responsible in all that they learn about it, in all that they learn about how we are wombed in our journeys. And when it's a characteristic, then like we educate on our voc, walk, talk, reaction, then it becomes exactly the country's reactions, the people in the country's response to all that the country hold office on, to all that the country are exposed to. Therefore, being responsible are in this discussion with me mindset control over attitude are of utmost importance. Legislative responsibility becomes the character of all that we create. Let's rephrase: legislative responsibility that I educate with my walk, my talk, my reactions. Over the years, my walk, my talk, my journey. I was a bartender. I had to serve thousands of customers. I was then in the morning 2 a.m. dancing. I have to learn the dancing communication was high in acknowledgement, and I was responsible in drinking, in being drunk, in dancing on high heels, in doing the complete communication, in working the next morning. And the communication are greatly building and greatly building character in our years. And that's why I say American television don't edit on my 4-0 journey communication. It's high in acknowledgement. And it's building character in our 100 years. And while it's building character, I was very sensitive in all that we can do in our journeys being young on earth. I was very sensitive even though I didn't realize that I was like a copy machine being copied the whole time. My reaction being copied while I walked my journey when I was young. And while the communication are building and it's building character, then don't just edit other people on it. Because it becomes exactly that we create. And while the communication were done in South Africa in 2004, and we're now 22 years in its birth giving, then kindly don't edit a lot on it when you're a television employees and you're employed on it and you'll learn about the communication. Or you'll learn about the complete 4-0 journey communication that are me, Ribea Elise charts, says communication. And it's not only a computerized office, but it's me, the person, and when I feel sensitive, and when I feel aggressed, and when I feel angry, then I realize that somewhere television employees were now again by the communication, and again putting red ticks where there was no meant to be green ticks. And in all that, let us learn then, therefore, to be responsible. Because like we always say, it's our legislative right. And when it's your legislative right, then it protects and defends your journey. Mindset control over attitude, 2025-2026. With me, Ribea Elise George.